just going to get started. Everybody, welcome to Trailer Punk Podcast. My name is Justin Hamline, and today I have the honor of having Ross from Plack Blague. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I can't wait to dive in. Is there anything you want to promote? Any shows or anything coming up before I get started?
Um, I'm just kind of kicking off the year, taking a break right now.
Okay,
So
great.
nothing, working on a lot of new music. So that's my goal right now.
Okay. Anything, any influences or anything you want to kind of divulge? Have something for people to kind of look forward to? Is there a certain angle you're going towards with this new music or new album, or are you just kind of sticking with what works?
Um, I don't know what my influences are. Like I've been listening to a lot of techno lately, and that's kind of my influence, like a lot of hard techno.
Oh, cool.
But I think I just finished an album called Physical Education, and that's kind of my take on writing a pop album, but in the
Oh, cool.
style of Blague. So it's like an industrial pop album, and it's almost like a love album. So like it's a lot of love songs.
That's awesome. No, that's okay. I love that.
But I'm
And
I'm trying after doing this, I'm sort of like, wait, I need to get back into the weirder stuff. Not that it's not weird and different, it's just sort of like I need to get like crazier and
sure.
get back to my roots a little bit. That's such a cliche thing to say, but
Oh, it's okay.
it's just kind of like, oh wait, I like writing kind of weird songs and heavy songs and noisy stuff.
I think you can have that balance where you have, because there's going to be a lot of people who are at your shows, which I'll kind of jump in because I saw you open for the Faint here in St. Louis. It's great to have that balance where you got the weird, you got the hard, but you also got the dance stuff where people can just kind of let loose at your shows. I think it's great to have that sort of balance in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always really believed in like being kind of genre-less,
Yes.
because I feel like it just caters to more people, and you can put more ideas together instead of trying to be so specific genre style or whatever. I kind of like really learned that a lot in 2019 with touring with this band Horror in Europe, HO 9909.
Oh yeah.
And that band is like multi-genre, and the
Oh yeah.
kids just ate it up. And I was like one of those things where I'm watching this every night going like, this is exactly like what bands should be doing. And especially now when everything's just, there's so many different styles and tastes floating around that I think that's just like a good idea to stick with. And I've always kind of been an outsider to everything in general. So I've always like kind of diving in a little bit of everything and making it my own.
Oh, you really do, and it's great because seeing you live is the first time I got to see you live. I've been kind of following your work. I think Justin Pearson from The Locusts and all the other bands that he's done, he kind of turned me on to you, and I went and I was like, oh, cool, he's opening for the Faint, which is the Faint is one of those bands that really just struck me, influenced me in my youth, and seeing you live, just I mean, it was if I may be so bold to say, it really like turned me on, not in this sort of weird sexual way, but it was like, you know, every bit of my senses were, peaked, were audibly, visually, just like it was like I couldn't stop just watching, and it was just so amazing. Tell me how you kind of came to your element and kind of how you know, was it just a natural sense, or were you just kind of discovering yourself between music and on stage?
I've always been a performer. I've been performing live music now for 30 years. I started, or over 30 years.
Mhm.
My first time on stage was when I was 13 years old,
Oh, cool.
and I've just always really loved that
Yeah.
attention and that expression. I've been playing drums for 27 years now, and I taught myself how to be a drummer, which was play the fastest music I can possible.
Yeah. I
And
understand that. Yep.
I played in grindcore bands and punk band kind of things like that, death metal bands, and I've just always really liked showing off in that way.
Yeah.
And Plack Blague was sort of like a project that when it started, it was like a joke. Our first show ever was playing in a record store window on Halloween for 4 hours in Lincoln, Nebraska at this
Yeah.
place called Zero Street. And it was just us making noise in the window while people banged on the windows and threw stuff at us. And we saw a lot of nudity, a lot of
Yep.
whatever, anything goes when we were watching. It's almost like they thought we couldn't see them, and that's was kind of the beginning of it all, which was us just being weird. And it really didn't progress. We just would kind of do like weird shows here and there. I booked bands in Nebraska for a long time, and I booked everything from like punk to hardcore, grindcore, death metal to noise, even pop music, hip hop, and just all sorts of genres. And anytime there's like a really weird band coming through, it's like, I need someone kind of weird to do this. Oh, we'll do it. We do this band called Plack Blague. And it was just this thing that was just a joke. And we just kind of like screwing around and being annoying. Because
Hmm.
at first it was just like recording CD skips from like dance albums and then like using that as our beats.
I
And
love
so
that.
we it was like music that was really hard to dance to because it
Yeah,
really had no rhythm. It
right.
kind of did, but it was just sort of like a didn't make sense and it was a
Like
lot of
music
screaming.
concrete type situation where you're kind of, kind of copy pasting things and just kind of doing just aggravating and agitating people.
Yeah, and there was a lot of screaming and rolling around on the ground, half naked and stuff. And unfortunately, the other member of Plaque Blake passed away in 2011. And I had already been starting to do Plaque Blake as a more like kind of solo idea. I'd been making a lot of new music at that time. So it was just like he was in my band Wastoid at the time, and that was my main band. And so it's sort of like well, that's over. I guess I do this now. And so Plaque Blake became just this, like literally like a few months later, and started just playing shows. And I had kind of things ready to go,
Yeah.
and it just kind of progressed. And I just for some reason I noticed people enjoyed it. It was interesting, it was different, and I'm from Nebraska, and that's like the most confusing thing for people
Oh,
because that's like the biggest question to get is you're from Nebraska, and you're
yeah.
like, yep.
I love that. That's so
And
great.
I just like confusing people too like that, and just I like just being expressive and weird and queer and freaky, and I don't know, just there's something about it. It gets just like you said, it gets you off. Well, it gets me off to
Yeah.
just be creative.
And it's really just it's such exciting music, and it's just when did you kind of start incorporating the sort of like industrial and the sort of I guess you can call it like punk or synth punk or digital, whatever you kind of want to genreize it as. When did you kind of go, this is it, this is kind of where it's going right now? Did you kind of gradually get there? Was that kind of intentional? Tell me where you kind of brought it into that industrial genre.
Well, even before Plaque Blake, I was into groups like Severed Heads who like
Mhm.
really relied heavily on tape sampling. And like I really liked that. And it just created like it was sort of dance music. It was kind of like just different. And it was looping and just making new sounds and stuff like that. So before the band even started, I was already kind of interested in music like that. Like I was interested in disco and dance music, but I was also into extreme music, which was like grindcore, noisecore, extreme hardcore, fast punk, and stuff like that. So I feel like it really was just all of my influences all just coming together at once and just be like, and this is what it is. The industrial element's kind of always been around. I was really into bands like Atari Teenage Riot,
Ooh, yeah.
and like
Yep.
I
Hmm.
saw them in 1997 or 8 when I was like
Their prime.
16, and they
Yeah.
were on tour with Beck and the Roots, and I was really into Beck at the time. It was like the 90s,
Of course.
and Atari Teenage Riot played first, and it was just like jaw dropping, front row, like, oh my God, I'd never seen so much energy
Oh, yeah.
on stage like that. I can't, well, I take that back. I saw the Boredoms play when I was 13 years old, and I'd never seen such energy in my life because it was like 12 people screaming on stage for a half hour.
Yeah.
But Atari Teenage Riot just had that like power that I really gravitated towards. So like Plaque Blague's style just kind of became itself like instantly. Like it was really like noisy at first for sure, but then like all of a sudden I just got interested in the idea of writing songs,
Yeah.
and like they just kind of came to be as what it is, and it just kind of as you do that more, your songwriting just progresses too, and it just kept feeding itself and more and more and more. And the more I was doing shows and the more I started touring, it was just kind of like I noticed that this was like becoming a thing. So I was like, how do I keep this going and what do I keep doing? And um, that's just kind of the progression, just
Sure.
what became itself.
Yeah, for sure. And I have my Atari Teenage Riot story. I didn't see them in the '90s, but when they did the return in 2010, I went and saw them in Chicago. Just blew my world apart. Like I was such a huge fan, and when they went into hiatus, I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna see them again. And then 2010 they came back, and I was like, this is it. I gotta see them live. And it was a small venue. I think it was it the Bottom Lounge in Chicago, and they were
Okay.
with Goth Sickles and Caustic, and it was,
Okay.
yeah, it was just it was what, like, it felt like a religious experience. I made sure I get there early, front stage, and just was like baptized in the whole experience. It was
Right.
so cool. And you're right, you really do have those elements with, Plack Blague and Atari, where it's just like everything's just peaked up to, to 10 or 11 or whatever you want to categorize that. And it's just like, and it just really gets out there, and it's such a great vibe and energy that you bring to a show. I think it was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no
Yeah, and
problem.
kind of going back to like I guess it's somewhat influences. I'm really into like performative live music. So if you have a image or a look or like you're being crazy and
Mhm.
super wild on stage, I like that a lot. I'm
Yeah.
super into that. So like I was really influenced by a lot of like noise bands that would show up and like I would see bands like Cocky SP, who I ended up doing a split 7 inch with, and they would like perform for 2 minutes and like fight on stage and throw stuff at each other and break stuff. And to me, that was like, oh, I love that.
I
And
love
so
that.
like that's kind of like an influence that I've had in this blagging.
Yeah, for sure. And when did you start? Was the leather and the spikes, was that just your own natural self and just kind of bringing that to the stage, or was that intentional?
It was just like I started out wearing suits on stage. It was
Oh,
just
really?
and like I started wearing like weird masks and it would be like a t-shirt with eyes cut out and
That's cool.
um it was just and I'd wear like a those like barber shop mannequin heads you cut hair out, practice cutting hair out. So like I just had a bunch of those growing up and like I had one that was connected to my hand. So that was like my hand for a while. And I'd pretend like it would sing. And then we would just eventually just throw that stuff into the crowd at shows.
That's so cool.
But the leather thing, I don't know. I was given a bunch of leather
Hmm.
many years ago, like 20 years ago or
Yeah.
so. And it was just like, oh, I'm wearing this. And someone gave me a studded jock strap. I'm wearing this now. And um, kind of another influence I had was seeing this band Shun,
Hmm.
and they were from Kansas City at the time, which was like super pop art punk, just super DIY, and like that is something I'm super interested in itself. And it was like one of those like, oh my God, I booked them in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna open for Shun. How do we amp this up a little bit? Oh, I'm gonna wear a jockstrap and this leather jacket and a hood, and like I'm gonna kind of like strip during the set, and
Yep.
like that was kind of really the beginning of that, like the whole style in that sense, probably like 2006.
That's great. And tell me, I was kind of like doing my research and looking through your stuff. Tell me about the moment that you got to meet Rob Halford.
Um, I was on the road. This was like, I want to say 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
And we were on the road, and I noticed that Judas Priest was playing in Illinois, like a couple hours from where we were performing, which was like the Quad Cities area.
Hmm.
And I was talking to my partner at the time. I was talking to my partner. We're like, maybe we should hit up because, okay, so long story short,
Yeah, go ahead.
Halford had just started liking stuff on Instagram for me and making comments. And
Oh,
I had posted a
wow.
shirt online and he wrote, need this. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, wrote him, I was like, anything you want, I'll send it
Yeah.
to you. And so he sent me his address and he just wrote, slay me. And I was just like, yes. So I sent him this stuff, and some time had gone by, and my partner and I were at an art opening, and they're like, let's go to this Mexican restaurant, grab some dinner. And
Yeah.
as we're eating, this is like our favorite spot to go to. And as we're eating, I'm getting live messages from Halford of like wearing our shirts and like posing with them and stuff. And I screamed, I was like, oh my God. Like I couldn't believe it. Like in this restaurant where everyone looked at us and we're
Oh
like,
my
sorry.
God.
But it was just one of those things where we started connecting a little bit online. And then so when we were in Illinois and on tour, we were like, maybe we should hit him up and see about maybe seeing if we can meet him somehow. But
Sure.
he ended up hitting me up on Instagram and was like, hey, I noticed you guys are like close by. Come to the show and we can meet. And so we had played. I can't think of the town. I'm drawing a blank on the
Yeah,
town.
it's okay. It's
But
okay.
we had played for four people the night before, which happens on the road
Of course.
still.
Been there, yeah, for sure.
And so he invited us to come to this concert. We had backstage passes and like full VIP, and it was like one of those situations where it was a huge line, and we just like walked right up to the front, like here we are. And so it was a Spinal Tap moment of we had
Yeah.
to go talk to this security person, then go talk to this person, then this person's going to take you here, and then we have to take you by catering, and then we walked by catering twice, and then all of a sudden we're back behind the stage, which was like the Thin Lizzy band. Now they were performing Jailbreak, and I just remember like being behind the stage watching them play, like, oh my god, we're about to meet Halford. And
So
so we like
surreal.
go through like all these tunnels, like it was so Spinal Tap, like
Yep.
where are we going? And all of a sudden we see him step out, like, oh my god, it's him. And then like his husband walked out, who like kind of acts as like his like assistant, kind of
Yeah, of
like
course. Yeah.
guard or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, Halford goes back in. He's like, all right, he's ready for you. And he comes back and we open the door and he's like, it's so great to see you, meet you at last. And we're like, oh my God, us, and I've been such a fan. And yeah, I was kind of starstruck. And it was just like, he's like, oh, you want to make a cocktail or you want to grab a snack? Go ahead. And we're just like, okay. And I like never did. I was just like, ah.
Oh,
And
I'm
what the
frozen.
thing was to tell my partner, was like, don't tell him we played for four people the night before. And that was like the first thing he said, of course. Like, we just came from a show, we played for four people. And I was like, no, no. And I was like,
No, don't
well,
tell.
it's not like it's not how it always is. And he's like, oh, I know. I watch, I see what you're doing. I see all your shows. And I'm just like, oh my God, you do.
Oh my.
And that was how we met. And then we got to see the concert, and we drove home in like a weird blizzard that night for 8 hours. And it
Oh,
was like, I look back, I'm like, why did we do that? But
right.
we had day jobs at that time. It's like, we have to get back to work. And I'm
I
looking,
know.
I remember getting to work the next day, like, there's this, that was so stupid.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
yeah, such a like, it was such a cool moment. And like, I still can't get over this, and like how just nice and cool and personable he is. And like, he's just so like, what I that's what I strive to be in this music world too. Is just like be cool to people and understand people. And like it's just fun to talk to him about, not about music. It's like cool to talk about like gay things, or like
Yeah.
being like a gay icon, or talking
Sure.
about like people who want to talk to you about that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of kids come up to me. I call everybody kids, but a lot of
Mhm.
people come up to me and talk about, their coming out or their experiences. And whether it's good or bad, it's always it's cool to have those moments with people.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if I don't mind getting too personal, what was your experience? I mean, you grew up in Nebraska? I know that's kind of a weird spot. Tell me about how you were able to get comfortable with yourself.
Um,
If you don't mind opening up about that.
I was just always a weird kid,
Okay.
and I always knew I was gay, and it was just sort of one of those things where I didn't really give anyone a choice. Like, I didn't give my family a choice to like have an opinion or anything. I
Oh,
mean, I was kind of like closeted in the sense where I I tried coming out when I was 15. It didn't really go the way I wanted it to, which is fine, and there's no really big deal about that. But it's one of those things where my parents always knew.
mhm.
And later on in life I did come out, and it was just one of those, they're like, yeah, like we
We
know.
know.
And so there wasn't like this crazy story element to it, but like I'm lucky to have really cool and supportive family,
Good.
and they've been nothing but supportive. And because things like music and art are like important in my family's world, where everyone does art, everyone makes, is creative, and everyone's super like just just I can't think of the word, just like they just do everything kind of thing. And
They're very, yeah.
I've just learned that from them. And
Mhm.
so coming out to me was very, cathartic, I guess, but also very just sort of like, that wasn't so bad.
No. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird time that we live in. And I mean, did you
I
experience any sort of living in Lincoln, Nebraska or Omaha, whichever part you're from? Did you deal with anything like that, or was it just pretty much like a pretty laid back
um
town?
yeah, I did, because like if you do want to come out and you do want to be like, yes, I'm out,
Right.
do
Yeah.
it. If that's
Please
what
do.
you
Yeah.
feel is good for you, then do it,
Uh-huh.
because for some people it's super hard to come out.
Yeah, for sure.
Luckily we live in a time where like it's a little easier to do that, and
I
you
think so.
may not be scrutinized, but there are kids getting thrown out of their families' homes for being
Yes.
gay. And like that is, so if coming out to you is like a celebration, absolutely celebrate it. as for me growing up, I grew up in a town of 400 people in Nebraska where like I didn't know gay people. And now that I'm grown up and I realize, oh, out of this 400 people, I knew like five gay people growing up. You know, my next door neighbor was,
That's
I lived on
awesome.
this same street as a trans woman in the 90s, which was like
Wow.
totally out there at the time.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I didn't know my dilemma was I'm a punk. Are there gay punks? I don't know. And so I remember just kind of being really confused about that. And then I started coming to punk shows in Lincoln when I was about 15. And that's when I discovered, oh, there are gay punks. There's a band called Faggotron in town
Mhm.
that, like, oh, I needed that so bad.
That's so
And to
cool.
me, that was my celebration, was to finally meet these people, see this band. And they were just, local punk young people. And it was like, and I wasn't like say out to them at the time, but I like funny talking to them later on. They're like, we always talked about you being gay or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. But I was also just like, I needed that more than ever to know that I'm not a
Alone.
freak of society because like I said, I've always felt like an outsider. I feel like an outsider to gay culture. I feel like an outsider to music. I feel like an outsider to art and just life in general. So
Right.
um, I also remember like there was a site called gay.com at the time, was like a chat group and you can meet people from all over the world. And it was a situation where I saw a guy from Kansas wearing an Exhumed t-shirt and I was like, oh my God, I have to know this person. And I did get to know them. And it's like, it's always a small world. And they're like, oh, I used to work with your buddy, Matt Lux. And he was in the band Armatron in Lincoln.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was just like, whoa, it's always like that small world situation. So like, that was my like celebration, was like, yes, finally I can relate to people that are like, because being young and naive, I was like, is all gay people just only into Judy Garland and Madonna? And it was like, I like that stuff, but I also like, you know, Gorbion Necropsy, like just as much. So it's like, I
Sure.
don't know how to find these people. And luckily I found my people. And that's just like being young and confused and stuff like that. So like the older you get, like also your friends change and like who you interact with changes. And it's just one of those like, I became kind of the thing that influenced me to do this, to influence younger generations and other people to be themselves and express yourself
Of course.
and just take life the way you want it to.
I agree. I agree 100%. And it's one of those things where, the internet has really helped kind of bring people together and able to communicate. And it's really neat now because it's like you can really just talk about bands and network together. What was your experience being a musician where you had to shift to being online and promote your stuff, on social media? Tell me about your experience with that.
I've always been into self-promotion. I've been in bands my whole life, basically, so I've always been passing out flyers.
Yeah.
The good thing about social media is like there's more reach to people as opposed to like, well, you can go to this show and pass out as many flyers as you can,
Right.
which I still do that. And
Of
like
course.
people should still keep doing that. The handbill and the flyer still
It
works.
works.
Um, but like I said, I was a kid growing up in Nebraska, so I didn't really know that many people, but I was into music and I knew there was just so much out there. So from the time I was like maybe 10 or 11 or so, I just started writing everybody. I made pen pals, I wrote skateboarders, I wrote football teams, I wrote whoever, and I got so many responses and I still have all those letters and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Um, so that was like just weird promotion in itself, where like I started being in bands in high school and you'd make little leaflet flyers of your band and send those out to your mailing people and then they might send those out to more people.
Yeah.
So I've just always been kind of into that promotional side of music world, but like yeah, like there was a in the 90s there was a book called Book Your Own Fucking Life that Maximum Rock and Roll released, and it was sort of like a classified ads kind of booking guide, and like bands would list their descriptions or their names in there and you could like write them, and if your band had the funniest description or like the most brutal description, I definitely wrote your band. And I'm still friends with some of those people since I was 15, 16 years old.
So cool.
And that's like just one of those things where that was social media before social media, and that's just how I've been interacting. And then when social media came along, it was like that times a million, so it was like it exploded in itself. And just kind of being part of the pre-internet world and then the internet world, it's sort of like I knew how to kind of utilize both
Yeah.
to work together in that sense. Because I still write letters, I still pass out flyers, and I still like support, go to shows and support other people too. That's another thing is like just be supportive of people.
Yep. No, I think so. And do you remember the moment when the Plack Blague stopped feeling like an experiment and started feeling like it is today?
Um, Mostly when I went solo for a while, I felt like the songs were becoming songs.
Yeah.
And then I had done some shows locally, but then I was asked to play in North Hollywood with Bastard Noise
Wow.
for a Eric Wood birthday party show at this venue called California Institute of Abnormal Arts, which was like a vaudeville kind of oddities, weird venue with like a dead clown in the outside of the venue that was like 100 years old and
Oh,
just like a weird experience. And it was like one of those nights where I was doing my music to a sold out crowd in LA, and it was just sort of like I felt like that was kind of the like, oh, this is it. Like this is kind of where I need what I need to do with this. And that was kind of maybe like the beginning of what it is now.
for sure. And what's one of your favorite venues that you've been able to play at?
I have a lot of favorite venues. Definitely my favorite Midwest venue is the Empty Bottle in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the coolest people. It's a legendary venue. It's got amazing sound and they've just been nothing but extremely supportive of Plack Blague ever since we got to play there. And thank you to our friends in Adult for introducing us to the venue and taking us in.
Yep.
And that's probably one of my more favorite venues. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Just there's been so many that they're all kind of interesting in their own ways, and it's I'm I like playing like bigger venues now, of course, but sometimes playing those like weird DIY spots can be interesting too.
Yeah, I think so. And I've always been a fan of the, smaller venues where you kind of got everybody kind of pressed in and just really involved in the environment. And, I've always been a fan of, either the basement shows or playing in a garage or, sort of backyard or whatever, where it's very like everybody's just in it and you can feel the vibe of the whole show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely love that. But that can happen at big shows too. It just
Sure.
sometimes you're performing and it's just like the energy is just over the top.
Yeah. What was probably the biggest show that you've played so far?
Um, it's kind of a toss up. I literally just played in Lincoln, Nebraska with this artist named Cupcake, who's
Uh-huh.
like kind of this nasty rapper, real naughty, and
Oh yeah.
it was like packed at this like 900 so people at the show,
Yeah.
and it was just like a watching. I DJ'd for her as well for
Oh,
this show, but I opened and then DJ'd and just like watching the kids just like eat her up and like filming everywhere she walked and knew every single word. And even when we were performing, a lot of those people had never seen us before, and it was like them screaming the words because I do have like a lot of songs that have like kind of chant parts.
yeah, yeah.
And if you can say that, like it's just
Oh yeah.
cool hearing all that.
Yeah.
But I think the first real big show like that was with Psychic TV at Summit Music Hall in Denver. And it was like packed to the gills, giant venue. And it was just sort of like this was in maybe 2015 now. And it was just like whoa, like this is huge. And so that was like, to me, like the most memorable, like big show like that. I mean, there have definitely been many other ones like touring with horror in Europe where every show is like 500 people, like, and you're just like, whoa, you go on stage and there's no one there. And then you go set up your equipment and then you go right when you go on stage, it's like open it's packed. But yeah, just those shows stand out a lot.
Did you say Psychic TV? So did you get to meet Genesis?
Yeah, we've met a
Oh,
couple times actually.
tell me about that.
I got to see Throbbing Gristle in Chicago when they did those when they reunited in like 2009.
Oh,
And I was in a book by an artist named Stephen Leba where he painted my portrait,
oh, cool.
and Genesis did the forward to the next like chapter, and so it was like my portrait and then her writing, and so I was like, oh my god, it's me and that's you, and she was just like not really that interested, but she's like, oh yes, that's very nice, does Stephen, I want one of these books, and I'm like, yes I will, like, and it was just super exciting. And then I was asked to open for Psychic TV in Denver, and the promoter was like, "Hey Jen, have you ever met Plack Blague?" And she was just sort of like, like did not care. And there was this like really attractive woman hanging out, and Jen was like very into talking to her,
Oh,
and so we were kind of like, these guys, whatever.
right.
And so we were like, "Oh, that's cool, thanks, Jen,"
So
and
wild.
then I'm getting ready to. There was an opener, and then I'm getting ready to play, and so like this is when I was wearing like head to toe leather, showing no skin except for my butt, kind of
Sure, yeah.
thing. And I'm naked in front of Genesis, and she's like, "Is that what you're wearing tonight?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she was like, "Interesting." And so I changed in all my clothes, and um, I was just like so fired up to go do this show because I was like, "Oh my God, she's talking to me now." And I go and do my set. It's amazing. People just eat it up. And then I go back off stage, and she's waiting at the bottom of the steps by me. And she's like, "Did you have a good time?" And I was like, "Oh my God, you just asked me that." "Yes, I did." And then she was super cool and let us like take photos together. And it was like very like small conversation, but at the same time, it was like, I felt like I kind of got the approval from Jen at that time because
Oh.
she was kind of like, she called me interesting.
Yeah, that's got to be something. Just because I mean, I've read books by all the other members of Throbbing Gristle. I can't think of it's Cozy, is it?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the other female. And so yeah, if you get some like her to interact with you, I think that's something because she. Judging by from what I've read, she, it's either or I'll welcome you in, and just to get that interest, dude, that impression just killed me. Dude, that is so funny. I love that. That's so neat. And was there
That's
any
one of those shows where I still meet people that are like, "I was at that show and you blew Psychic TV away." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Are you serious?" And you're like, it's just, that's maybe like the biggest like show kind of story that I have.
yeah, one of those
People still talk about.
yeah, one of those standout moments where it was I think it's great because you go I was there just to, because I love this group, I support this band, obviously Psychic TV and Throbbing Gristle are one of your influences, but to share the stage and not just that, but for people to go, you blew them out of the water has got to be like top shelf compliment right
Yeah, it makes you feel pretty good.
there. Do you have pre-show rituals like before you get on? Or you gotta have something to eat, you gotta have something to drink? Do you chant?
No, I'm not really like a pre-show rituals guy. I like to like not eat a lot before I go on
Yeah, me too.
stage
I'm the
because
exact same way. Yeah,
there's times where you're like, you eat and like, I gotta be standing or I gotta be jumping on stage for 45
sweating.
minutes, and I just ate half hour ago, like, oh no. But that's probably my ritual, not eating.
Yeah.
But my ritual is just changing into my stage clothes, and that's when I kind of go from maybe being, I don't really get that nervous, but I get more like anxious. Like it's the waiting part. It's like,
Oh yeah.
just come on. And then like the second I start changing, I can feel myself starting to like get ready and like feel like prepared and like ready to go. There's been moments like that Faint tour specifically. The drives are really brutal every night, and luckily like I had a crew with me helping. And I remember we got to the Madison show in Wisconsin. I'm just backstage going like, "Hey, how am I going to do this today?" I just could not get any energy built up. I felt so worn down.
Yep.
And then it's like the second I started changing, I could just feel my blood boiling and changing, and I could just feel it like working. And then I felt like I put on a pretty good show.
Oh yeah.
So
And
it was
I
just
mean,
one of those things where that's my ritual, I guess, is just kind of getting ready.
just psych yourself up, and it's just like getting in the zone and getting in the element. Which believe me, I if it's a show or a pre-podcast, I'm I'm nervous. Like it doesn't matter how many podcasts I've done, how many people I've talked to. I always get nervous. I always like, got to psych myself up. Whether it's a show or anything, I'm just like, come on, you can do. It's. But once you're there, all that just goes away.
Right.
Love it.
I get nervous like meeting people sometimes, or like I DJ'd this cupcake show, and it was like I hadn't talked to her about this, and I just got asked a few hours before the show even started. So I'm like, I was kind of nervous, like, what am I doing? What did I get myself into? And then it's just a matter of like, I got to talk to her for like a minute and be like, "So is this what you want?" She's like, "Yep, just do this." I'm like, "Okay, perfect." And then you just kind of, I don't know, like I've just been on stage so many times too that you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah, for sure.
I've
Well,
had moments though, like in Bordeaux, where I was like, felt like I was having a panic attack, and I don't know what it was at all. But like my buddy Jan showed up, and the tour manager's like, "Hey, Jan's here," and I was just like, that's when like I just left all those nerves, and I was like, ah, just a recognizable person helps me too.
oh, for sure. And that's one of the questions I was going to ask. Do you remember a moment when you thought about, completely giving up on performing on music, but there's something that just was like, this is what's keeping me going?
Um, I don't really think about giving up on music because I
Okay,
feel like that's just what I'm made to do,
sure.
and that's like what I want to do. So I don't really have that moment so much. There's definitely times where like, what am I doing? But I think that's just every artist doubting themselves at times. And it's just kind of like, what am I doing? Or like but if that's what you're doubting or you're kind of doubting yourself, maybe just change something a little bit, or I don't know, like try something. So
Yeah.
that's what I try to do as well.
Yeah, kind of step out of because you can get bogged down with just ritual and, kind of monotony or whatever. And it's one of those things where as an artist, it's like shift something, do something completely different to kind of relight that sort of passion that you have.
Yeah, I do. I have a moment where we were in Boise, Idaho with Adult. We were like on a 6 weeks tour with them, and um, it was getting close to the end of the tour, and the show was kind of like smaller show, and I think everyone was just feeling pretty tired, and it was one of those moments where everyone was like, "Ah, there's not that many people here," and it's just like, "Okay," and we got to go do it. So I'll go do my little dog and pony show, and I do it, but the thing is, like, I was sort of like, whatever. But then the opening artist, she was like, my best friend's coming pretty like really soon, and he is a huge fan of yours. And I'm like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, he cannot wait to see you. So like, I'm going, oh, okay. Now I have this person coming I have to perform for.
Right.
And that as we're performing, I can see this person right up front mouthing like every word, which was kind of new at the time. And it was so like, whoa, you know every lyric to these songs. And so it made me be even more like, oh yes, I'm performing for this
Mhm.
person. You're here and you're into this. And so I remember getting off stage and Adult was like, the people in Adult were like, how did you do that? It's like you performed for 500 people. And I was like, it just took that one conversation where this person's like, my best friend's coming and he loves you. And I was just like, oh, cool. And I've experienced other things like that too, where you're like, wow, you're the only person at the show, but you drove 4 hours to come see us. We're performing for you. Like there are times where like you don't play for that many people, and it's just sort of like you have to find that rush and that want to perform
Yeah.
or that need.
Yeah. And have you ever run into like a confrontational person who's at the show and was just like upset with your set, upset with you? Was there someone that you just like they came to see the other band and they had to deal with,
Yeah,
whatever bad day they're having and they take it out on you or anything?
yeah, there's definitely been those people where
Right.
they like try to take out their problems on you, but at the same time, not really a whole lot, but I had a really funny moment where we were in Berlin, Germany, and there was like we were with horror, and there was two huge lines of merch, and it was kind of like who could sell more merch that night? This huge sold
Oh,
out show, and this woman is like, "I like that shirt, or I really want a shirt, but I just don't like any of them." And I'm just going like, "Okay," and it was just like a lot of like, "You're holding up the line," and she's just like, I don't know," and I'm just like either like pick one or don't, like
right.
I don't know. There's people that want something right now, and that's just like a dumb story like that. But yeah, there's been times where people are just they want to talk to you too much about the performance too after your set, or it's just sort of like they want to criticize it or like tell you their thoughts about it, which aren't necessarily like always positive or but like you see that more in like comments. Like some woman was mad at the Faint because they had me opening up for them and how she was so mad that she had to eat her tickets to the show because they had Filth opening for the show. And honestly, I
Oh
was like,
God.
whoa, you call me Filth? Amazing.
Thank you.
And that ended up being like the best review of the tour.
That's awesome. Tell me about your experience. You know, obviously you toured the US, but also Europe. Where is there anything, any differences that you've experienced between the two?
I will, yeah, cater our hospitality is way better in Europe than America. Like America is like, here's your two free drink tickets, if that, and here's a crappy bathroom with no doors and it's gross.
Yeah.
You experience that in Europe too a little bit, but like the venues are just so much nicer
Mhm.
and the sound is so much nicer and like you get fed at shows, they treat you like an artist, I feel like. And that was the biggest thing where like, well, you're doing like a dinner with the whole show before your show and you all like talk to each other and that's kind of how you interact with the crew and like the promoter and stuff. And I found that to be like pretty interesting and something you can get used to for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And it's I've actually heard that from a lot of artists where they'll make sure that you are comfortable. They'll make sure you get paid. They make sure you get your fed, they hospitality, a place to stay, and it's just like, my God. And I think more artists would thrive better if the US was a lot more open like that, you know? And it's because some venues you'll go in and it's like, oh, we don't pay you today. It's just one of those things where you're just like, oh, it's such a struggle.
Right. I
Yeah.
think like, well, in countries like France, art is subsidized by the government. So like a lot of these venues are given money to like keep it to like be a venue, and have like nice lights and nice equipment and stuff like that. Where art is just appreciated more in Europe, I feel like, where in America, art is definitely appreciated. It's just kind of different, and you're kind of like you're just this entertainment sort of thing at times.
No, I get that. And it's even just the music you play where it's very, you know, electronic heavy. They love that shit in Europe, man.
Oh yeah.
Berlin. Oh my God, they eat that shit up. It's got to be awesome. Like it's got to be one of those just wild moments where you're playing and people are just like it's like, you know, the club scene in Blade or something where it's just like everybody's just so into it.
Yeah, I've experienced that kind of everywhere in a way, though,
That's
which is cool. So I've just been lucky enough to tour with bigger bands in Europe who have taken Plack Blague on the road and like kind of let us like took us under their wing to say, and they play big shows and we've been lucky to play these big shows. We've done some shows in Europe by ourselves, but which have been good as well.
right.
It's just we've been lucky to kind of like be with bands that have big shows and then all of a sudden we're opening for like, large crowds in London or sold out shows in London or like Berlin. And it's just interesting, experiencing just waking up in a new country every day and playing like some crazy show, or just the energy is wild. Like Berlin, like you said, we've done that a couple times, just both times super sold out, just wild. People are just so like raging the whole night. And it's just that'll make your set feel like it's nothing, like it goes by so fast, but also it feels good to do that, just have that experience. And just you just let off so much your own energy and you feed off everybody too. But I've
Right.
also played shows in America where like there used to be this party we would play in LA called Mustache Mondays, and it was like a Monday night queer party.
That's all.
And we played at this bar called La Cita Bar, which is like a Hispanic, like Mexican dive bar with really loud music constantly. And I remember playing, you only do like 15-minute sets at this party. Like people like Robin would perform there, like just like really big artists too. And um, I remember playing and it was people just screaming for 15 minutes the entire time. And that was like this was the first kind of big LA show for Plack Blague too. And it was just sort of like I could not believe it, like just feeding off this energy so much that was like the first time of just being like, whoa, it's insane at this show, and that's such a cool feeling to experience.
It really has to be. That's insane. And I mean, you've probably been asked this before, but at least my audience would like to know: how did you come up with the name Plaque
I
Blade?
really don't remember. It was just my buddy Jeff and I were just talking, or like, I don't know, Plaque Blague or something
Yeah,
like that. And it was just I don't remember. I wish I had this great story for that, but it's just oh, Plaque Blague, that's who we
that's
are now. And it's been so long now. It's been 21 years now or more where it's like,
it just sticks now.
yeah. It's a word that's like, I will say like bands should name their band something that's easy to remember. And my band name is like hard to say, so people have to think about it a lot. So it's one of those names that's sort of like it's memorable because you kind of have to think about it a little bit.
Yeah. Tell me about the songwriting process that you go through. What's your, writing lyrics? Are you a notebook or take notes on your phone? And then once you get, behind the computer and start working out songs and stuff, tell me about that process that you go through.
I'm just constantly listening to music like 24 hours a day, and so sometimes I'm just like, jamming some rhythm on my leg or something, or I'm a drummer too, so I kind
Yeah.
of am constantly, air drumming or doing whatever. I'm like Mr. DIY. So if it's like free software or free drum machines or whatever, or like borrowing someone's keyboard quick, or like I can just make it work. I've written like songs on my phone before. I've written songs with just like banging on stuff. I've written, like full on, like I feel like all synth songs, drum machines and everything. But I just, I like to jam. But usually lately I'll just kind of like work on beats, or I'll kind of like work on just like weird synth chords, or like all of a sudden I'm just like screwing around. I'll be like, record this, make a little sample of it, and then I'll just go from that.
Yeah, sure.
Where I've been recording music with this band Adult, and like we're like, how do we start doing this? Like we're collaborating on an album, and we're like, how do we start these songs? So we were listening to just samples from horror movies that are just like just weird little sound bites, and then like listening to it and be like, this one has like a weird pattern to it. So it'll be like talking, but it has like a rhythm. And we're like, let's
Yeah,
start with
I've done
that.
that.
And all of
Yeah.
a sudden, that's the song starts with that rhythm. And
Yep.
then you just kind of work from that.
Yep. I
I'm just
mean,
kind of like always making sounds, and I'll be like, that's cool. And then I'll just like work from there. I'm like by no means like a pro producer or anything. I just like make shit work.
and it sounds amazing. Like considering that you're very DIY, it sounds impeccable. And even just the real proof is if you can perform it live and make it sound good without feeling like certain part of the the beat or the bass is just blowing out the rest of the speakers over the synth line. You have a way that you've got that perfect balance, and even just listening to it on the headphones is like, don't humble yourself, but you got to know that you really know how to make fucking great music, you know.
Yeah, I'm just trying, honestly. Like I'm I kind of like the more I do it, the more I understand it, like production and mixing and stuff like that. So it sometimes I'll have like a sound engineer at a show be like, I love doing sound for you because your tracks and your sounds actually like are good audible volumes, and that you're not blowing the system out or anything. And that makes me feel good because I have literally have no idea what I'm doing.
Tell me about writing lyrics. Are you just influenced by anything, everything, whatever you're feeling at the time? Again, do you
Yeah,
write everything
I
down, or you do it on your phone, or what?
I walk a lot, so I feel like I have a lot of time to think too. And so like I'll just like all of a sudden be thinking about some phrase, and I'll be like, and then I'll be like, I need to write that down, and then I don't, and then I don't remember it, of course. So I've been getting better at like jotting things in a notebook. I have notebooks at my studio where I'm just like, oh, this line, write it down. I've learned to definitely write things down. But yeah, it's just like experiences that I have, or like it's about like cruising, it's about being gay, it's about being hot, and it's about being horny, really. And so when you got turned on, that's what it's obviously it's working.
Right. And I mean, how do you know when a track is finished, especially with this sort of minimalism leaves so much space?
I get so tired of it that I just give up on it, or I just go like, okay, stop, like because I'm the type of person to overwork things.
Mhm.
And so I have had to teach myself how to edit. And I've talked to other bands about that too, where it's like even Todd from the Feint, I had a conversation with him a couple months ago where it's like, yeah, you just have to like learn to edit and just like not be like, you don't need 50 instrument tracks on this
Yeah.
song, maybe just 10 is fine, and that's been a huge like plus lately in writing. It's just kind of like trying to be a little bit more minimal.
Yeah, I get that. And I think it makes things easier to kind of maintain, and, even because sometimes, when you become certain artists and you become like a perfectionist, you're like, well, this needs this, and start layering things upon layers. And it's just like all of a sudden it sounds muddy, or it's like just
Right.
overly produced. And I think that's great for your sound because it's got that industrial edge where a lot of people overly polish, and you go, this is it, this is raw, this is, fist in your face, just it sounds incredible, so good.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, we just like whenever people ask like what kind of music you make, we always just kind of my partner always says like, "Well, it's hardcore disco." And it's
Yeah,
sort of like, "Well, that is kind of what I we are in a way." It's like
sure.
I it's like people like to be like, "Oh, it's body music." And I like always joke, "Well, EBM, electronic body music," but I always call it electronic Blague music just to make it to my own because I feel like I'm just always trying to like not be super specific
I get that.
genre wise.
Right. And is there any artist that saved your life that, you feel like, you're paying homage to when you're working on music or paying your respects? Is there anyone that stands out above the rest?
Well, definitely adult. They're like my biggest influence. They're like my family, and they're a band I discovered 25 years ago and because of the Faint actually.
Hmm.
And it's just one of those like I love their sound. It's like punk, it's electronic music, dance music, but it's punk. And that's probably what influenced me the most in that sense, where you could be like dancey, but you could not be so serious too, or they're pretty serious, like, image and lyrics and everything. And it's just one of those things where I booked them in Nebraska and got to know them, and then you realize we're kind of similar people in a lot of ways, and we became just like we didn't see each other for a few years, then reunited in San Francisco, and just kind of like have been doing stuff ever since then, the last 10 years or so.
That's great.
And they're definitely the a huge artist I'm consistently like trying to impress. And like I know that
Love it.
sounds
No, that's
I
great.
want their approval
Okay.
first.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of
But
those. No, go ahead. Sorry about that.
but yeah, I don't know. Like I'm all over the place in influences, so there's like nothing super specific where I'm like I need to please this artist, but adult is like who I take my criticism from and like to talk about my music with, and they're just an influence in that sense.
Sort of like a mentor in a way,
Big
but
time,
also
yeah.
one of those like you, because there's a lot of artists that we kind of look up to, and we kind of have mentors. Is that as an adult one of those bands where they kind of have that whole package where you're so influenced by, but you also is like a family with?
Yeah, definitely. Like we've been writing music together for this past year, and that like it's like taking my ideas through their equipment has been like another eye awakening experience of songwriting for me. And I've always just been like, I'm gonna write a bunch of crap and here's things put together. And then when they write, it's sort of like, let's write some things, let's talk about it for a little bit and kind of discuss what's working, what's not working, go back to it, listen to things, and like take it more of like a not necessarily job, but just kind of like a creative process of like, yeah, you kind of have to talk about this stuff. Sometimes things don't work, or maybe this does work better. And that's been a huge learning experience for me as far as like future songwriting goes.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you hope Black Plague represents in a larger underground conversation?
Um, I don't know, just kind of like being cool.
Yeah,
Like it's for everybody, to be honest. Like we do have a huge gay element, a
yeah,
huge
sure.
queer influence and everything, but like to me it's for everybody. And it's if you enjoy it, that's what I want. And like obviously it's not for everybody, but it's like for the people who get it, they get it. And it's like that's who I do it for because I get so many cool people talking like telling how it's like it's important to them or how it influences them or how why this is cool. I have so many kids that tell me like I love coming to your shows, I love listening to your music because it lets me be myself.
Good.
And to me that's like the best reward from this project is like letting just people be free.
Yeah. And I think it should be like that where, you need someone to kind of come to your music and go, I can just leave all the bullshit behind. Even going to a show, it's like come to the show and just shed all that shit,
Yeah,
when you're on the dance floor. You know what I mean?
right. And I feel that way with a lot of other artists too. And it's just sort of like a I'm here to have fun and have a good time and you know look at something interesting and weird too and just it create like an environment. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and if someone completely understands Plack Blague, what do you think they usually get wrong about it?
Um, that's an interesting question. It's hard to say really,
Mhm.
because I think what they get wrong is they're turned off by the fact that the gay thing is weird for some people,
Okay.
which is unfortunate. But
Right,
like
right. I
I've
agree.
played shows where you open up for like we say we opened up for Power Man 5000 a couple times, which
Oh
had they had
wow.
their like their own world and their own
Yeah,
career and their own scene.
yeah.
And then like those crowds are kind of like back off,
Oh yeah.
standoffish to this project. But then like halfway through the set, all of a sudden they're closer and they're dancing to it and they're not mouths wide open anymore.
Right.
And they're like, I had no idea something like that existed, or I've
Mhm.
never seen anything like that before. And or even being in Berlin and having people like, I've never seen anything like that before. And you're like, wait, you live in Berlin? We're like, this is huge there, this kind of stuff. And it's just that kind of those moments are what make it like interesting and like I already forgot what the question was, but
No, if anybody ever gets anything wrong, like which I think
um
is a great
I
example
don't think
where
so.
right with Power Man 5000 where it's a weird because it's like you kind of get it's kind of mixed with like the new I guess I hate to put them in it but that sort of new metal crowd where they were kind of raised in that Limp Bizkit, Korn, Rob Zombie type of genre and them going, oh hey, I'm gonna have a nostalgia moment, and then they got Plack Blague coming up and just shaking things up. It's got to be like especially if they're gonna add the queer aspect to it. I think it's one of those things where it's like who cares? You know what I mean? Like it's great that you have that on there, but it shouldn't be the only box you put it in. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. And that's like I said, it is this whole gay element, this whole queer element too, where it is all about that, but it is like it's about being a band and it's also about playing music and performing and stuff like that. So it's like it's I think that's kind of where I'm getting as like people learn to understand that it is more than just being like just gay, 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 gay. It is that, but you know,
Right.
it's just there's more to it than just that.
I
So I
get
guess that's kind of where I'm
Yeah,
going with your
sure.
question.
And was there ever a moment where because I've seen your show and a lot of ass hanging out and stuff, which is great. But it's one of those things. Did you ever have to like read the room and go, I don't think I'm going to do that today?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I've I've had to do like a couple like all ages shows at like an all ages venue where you're like, yeah, I probably will not do that tonight, you know, and you're like, it's just maybe not appropriate.
Maybe not
But then
today.
again, it depends on the venue because I've played
Sure.
like punk shows where I was 15 at a show where people were naked and
Oh
it
yeah.
that was cool to me. So
I love it.
it's just like I'm not trying to do that for, you know, underage people or
No,
anything,
of
but
course not.
it's
No.
just yeah, it's interesting.
No, it's funny and it's great because it was one of those like it was just I love to be shocked. I love being confrontational during a show where it's like, oh, it breaks every bit of element that you're in and going, let's take this shit up a notch. And I loved that because it was like, and even with the faint crowd, especially in St. Louis, Missouri, you don't know what to expect. But I think we were at a time where it was there was a certain God. I feel like I'm scrambling my words around where you were working with I can't think of their names, but it's like the St. Louis metal punk group.
Oh yeah, Midwest metal punks.
That's it. Thank you. And which I think they've actually gone away. Unfortunately, they were great, but
Yeah.
I feel like they really brought in just like a room full of anybody and everybody. It was such a neat group of people to be around.
Yeah, luckily St. Louis is one of those cities where we've performed there quite a bit in the last few years. Thank you to Taylor from
Yes.
Midwest Metal Punks. Like she's
Oh.
originally from Nebraska and
Mhm.
lived in Des Moines and um has done a lot for St. Louis and has definitely helped us out in that way and in that city. And playing like the Faint tour was cool because it gets a whole different crowd
That's
mixed
what I
in
was
with
saying.
like
A
our
different
crowd. So
crowd.
we kind
Yeah.
of brought our own people there too, which makes everyone kind of have to mix with the underground.
Did you bring it? Did you notice like you bring in a crowd where it is these sort of metal clad BDSM queer group? Like, have you noticed that it's kind of your music has brought people in like that, or has it just kind of been this sort of natural fluidity of anybody and everybody?
It's a little bit of both. I mean,
Okay.
it depends what kind of show it is, depends what venue it is, and depends what city it is too. Like obviously you can play in like a major city and that might be a queer party you're playing at. It's like almost only queer people, or like we've played parties where it's like almost all gay guys, or then you play like shows in, I don't know, Iowa or Nebraska for that matter, where it's not necessarily a ton of gay people or queer people there. There are definitely more and more all the time.
Oh yeah.
But then there's like some towns like Springfield, Missouri, which like this drag artist Crystal Method used to run this party called Get Dusted.
Yep.
And that was like kind of what I would call a small city, small town situation, but it was just like there were it was a queer monthly party, but they were like dying for it. So like it was just one of those, like it was packed full of people that were just like needing these spaces to be themselves at. And so it's like there's definitely like it's a mix of everything, but it really just depends on the show and the promoter, or like the like obviously if I'm playing like with some sort of like black metal bands or like death metal bands or something like that, that's not going to be super gay. There might be some people there, but
Right.
it's just surprise. I like playing shows too where like people like to come to my shows and dress up, and I really like kind of mixing things up to like a more mainstream heteronormative crowd, because sometimes the freaks come out and that's my people.
Yeah.
And if that's freaky to you, or if that's weird to you, maybe you're in the wrong space. But usually I feel like everyone's pretty cool and are able to like you know enjoy everything together.
Sure. Yeah. And has making this music made you more hopeful or maybe a little bit more cynical?
um Definitely more hopeful, because now I live as an artist playing as Plack Blague. That
Really?
is my job.
That's awesome.
So that's, I never thought I would be doing it, but I've definitely been working for that my entire career. I hate to say career, it sounds kind of
I
corny,
know
but
it's
I feel
weird
like
to,
this
yeah.
is my life now, and
It's
it's
gotta be
been
wild.
nothing but positive, and I get nothing really but positive energy and
Yeah.
comments and messages from people. There are shitty people out there, but screw those people.
Right.
But it's just cool to I'm kind of like a local celebrity in town too, so that's fun, and it's just like I get to meet people I'd thought I would never meet, and that's fun. And like the amount of artists and even celebrity people that I talk to or interact with, it makes me feel super good that I'm doing something right. And so the cynical moments are just being like, what am I doing? Or like, should I do this? Or like, you do kind of get burnt out a little bit, but that's just part of everything. Being an artist is hard. Being
Oh
creative
yeah,
constantly is hard.
for sure. It's got to be. And if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
Just keep going, like don't be afraid to take chances either. Like but I feel like that was just me growing up all the time in general. It's just like I lived in my own world where I did whatever I wanted to. So if I were to tell myself back then, it'd be like maybe learn a little bit how to like a little bit more how to play instruments better. Like I don't know, maybe understand music theory a little bit, or maybe kind of like be a little bit more professional.
Yeah. And you said you you were a performative kid. Were you always doing being on stage? Were you like in school plays? Were you just always naturally performing in front of your family? Like, tell me about that.
I just have been playing live music since I was a teenager, and
Yeah, yeah.
that was just me being expressive.
Okay.
I've always enjoyed making art. So like I went to school for painting and photography. So I've always liked presenting art and doing art shows and just being part of that world. And but just the idea of kind of I've always been kind of a show off. So I think that's just where I get that all from. And my dad has been such an influence to me, where he's taught me nothing but I'm just drawing a blank right now.
You're good.
Uh what's that called when oh man, I
No,
totally had this in my mind. I'm blanking.
no, you're good. Was it like inspirational? Was it,
Confidence.
yeah.
He's taught me nothing but confidence. So
Right.
it's been like I feel like that's been my biggest influence
That's
in all
awesome.
of this is just being confident in what you do is that obviously will show.
For sure. And you should need that definitely when you're up on stage and and that's the thing. You are I mean, besides, your musical partner, you are just right there in front of everybody and just being like, "Hey, this is me. This is who I am." And even just with the songwriting process is going, "Yep, this is all me." Like there's nothing else. I can't hide behind a band. I can't hide behind anything else. Like I'm just putting myself out there.
Right. I think one of the best like reviews I got, we were doing an interview in France and the guy was like, "You're like a cross between Suicide meets Judas Priest," and you're like, yes, that's exactly what I want. Because like Suicide's a big influence, but
Yes.
like Pet Shop Boys are probably one of my biggest influences and maybe my
Wow, really?
favorite band out there.
That's
And finally seeing them live many years ago and like experiencing what they do on stage was such a eye-awakening experience for me to be like, oh, I can do that. Like it's not about having a band on stage or, they had some backup dancers here and there, but it was primarily just them, Neil Tennant, like, on stage. And that was such a, not really a wake up call, but just like a big, like, whoa, that was the moment where I was like, yes, I can do this. And another weird time of that was like, I opened for Charlie XCX in like 2017,
wow.
and
That's wild.
she was so pro on stage that I was just like blown away. And it was just her. Like there was a DJ playing her tracks and stuff, but just watching her control the crowd was like, whoa moment. But also like seeing bands like Shun who would like design an entire stage
Yeah.
with like, super DIY painted stuff and like creating a stage on their own. And then you're seeing Cody on stage, like all dressed up, all crazy. And then they're like, is he singing? Is he lip syncing? What is going on? And to me, that was like, whoa, like that kind of stuff is like what's super cool and like influential to me in that sense.
So cool. It's so great to see Charlie at such a, young and just kind of getting up there and to see her now it's like like all
Yeah.
over the place. It's got to be such a wild surreal moment. Have you had one of those? I mean, besides Charlie, was there, one of those bands that was like I cannot believe that I'm sharing the stage with this act.
Well, obviously Psychic TV, but yeah, Charlie XCX was definitely that. And uh I I don't know. God, I'm just drawing blanks right now,
No,
like
it's okay.
certain
No, you're
bands.
good.
I feel like uh
You've been with so many, and I mean, you shared the stage with a lot. It's got to be just one of those things where it's like, damn, this is crazy.
yeah, I think like the craziest moment feeling of that was being on stage in London at this
Mhm.
venue called The Garage, which is like a legendary London venue. And Igor Cavalera from Sepultura had
Mhm.
come to hang backstage,
Oh,
and
wow.
he had been like interacting with me
Mhm.
online and stuff like that before that. But I remember being on stage, and my green room stairway left like led you to the stage, and I remember just looking over, and Igor Cavalera's watching from my green room, just like, this is like insane. Like I cannot believe this person is watching me, because as a drummer he's like a huge influence to me, but also just as a person who um completely loves the underground, that is a huge influence to me from him too. So it's like this person is like watching me and into this, and like
Sure,
that was one of those feelings where I felt like, whoa, not like I feel like I made it, but it was just like, whoa, this is like crazy feeling.
yeah. It's got to be like a real like 180 moment where you're idolizing this person and then all of a sudden they're backstage checking out your music and just getting into it. It's got to be one of those just like it's weird when life will just kind of wrap things in this weird bow where it's
Yeah,
you didn't realize the impact you would have on people.
right. Yeah, it's crazy and it's like a really good feeling. And I don't know, like even just like the first time playing with adult, like I will say there's such a big
So
influence to me
great.
that it's just like I finally got to play a show with them. I was like, whoa. And even like the first time playing with the Faint, even though
Hmm.
I'd played shows with them in my old band in like the 90s where they were like more indie rock,
Yep.
but like my friend Jake, when he joined that band in like 99, he became like the new synth player. He was one of my close friends in the hardcore scene, and we're just like watching him be on stage was like, whoa, insane. You're like with the faint now, and they were just starting to blow up,
Blow up.
and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff is like important and influential to me. Just watching my friends kind of thrive and just those kinds of things are what's cool.
That's so cool. And if you weren't doing music, what would you be doing instead?
I'd probably be a mailman.
You'd be a
I think
great
about
mailman.
that. I don't know, probably I went painter. I went to school for oil painting, so like I still like that. I actually have been screen printing for like 27 years now, and
You do
so
your own
like
shirts? You do your own
I
screen
do all
print?
my own
Yeah, it's
merch, yeah,
awesome.
and I
I
print
love it.
shirts for other people too. So that's one of those things like that I always joke this I say this in every interview or whatever, but the best advice I ever got as an art or as a musician was learn how to screen print. And that
Yep.
was when I was 18 and I was like, yeah, I've been using that ever since. And so I don't know, I'd probably be screen printing if
Cool.
like I wasn't playing music. I just really like it. There's something
Yeah.
really satisfying to me about it.
I think it's like it's cathartic where even if it is monotonous, there's this moment of, it's creativity. It's creativity in its own way and just going, I did this. I've created this. And even with,
Yeah.
able to sell your shirts at venues has got to be like everything just kind of it's great. It's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, and that's like the cool thing like about doing your own merch is it's sort of like you can make as much as you want to and then like all of a sudden you come up with these ideas like I have a Plack Blague Say Relax shirt, which is like a ripoff from Frankie Goes to
Like,
Hollywood. And it's like that shirt when it came out was just like a funny, like all of a sudden everybody had that. And the cool thing about social media is like people started posting themselves wearing Plack Blague merch. And so I just constantly started reposting and like resharing these photos or asking people for for photos and people got really into that and all of a sudden there's a lot of people wearing my merch and I feel like that people just kind of ate up that concept and like the shirts were kind of fun and cool in general but then like I was making this shirt that was like Black Blake Say Relax was this rip-off shirt from Frankie but then all of a sudden I have members of Frankie Goes to Hollywood going I want that shirt and then they buy that stuff and I was like I'll give it to you
oh
and
my
that
God.
I felt like I got the approval of that from them, because they could be like suing my ass if they wanted to, but
Right.
like it was
That's
just sort of like,
awesome.
whoa, they bought it or like they approved it. And to me, that's like amazing. Like
Yeah, well,
everything's so small world to me.
yes, it really is. And has anybody ever gotten a tattoo? Like a
Oh yeah.
really? Oh,
That's a
that's
weird
so
feeling
cool.
for me.
That's
Like the
wild.
tattoo things are always weird, but it's cool. And I have all my tattoos are music related, so
Yeah,
it's sort of like, well, I do that, so
yeah.
it's cool to see, and it's interesting.
What is your weirdest tattoo?
uh,
You don't, I mean, it's
this
up to you if you want to share it.
this Vermiform Records logo,
Oh, that's
um,
cool. Yeah.
that Sam McFeeters drew. He ran that label, so
Yep.
it's like, I don't really think they're that weird. I
No, that's
can't
fine.
really see it right now. But I have this robot on my arm that a buddy of mine tattooed, like freehand tattooed on my couch.
Yeah, it's cool.
So all my tattoos are crappy homemade ones.
I got a mini moog on my arm.
Oh, nice.
That's one of the weird ones.
So you can be
Then
like, mm.
right, yeah, and that's but people go, "Oh, you play the organ?" I was like, "Nah, it's a synthesizer. It's a whole nother thing."
Yeah.
Like. But what was your expectations in the very beginning, and has that changed so far?
I had zero expectations, and I think that's like the best way to go into like being a band or like a noise project or like a electronic project is just do it for fun. And we did it just to like be annoying. And um it just the more you do it, the more it becomes like a thing too. So it's just I feel like just not taking yourself so seriously. I see
Sure.
a lot of bands that's like they start out they all of a sudden have the best merch, they all of a sudden have the best sounds and the best records, and it's sort of like have you even like just really experienced this world like it's like you need to pay your dues a little bit. You need to
Yeah.
kind of understand that like people really try to like just be different and stuff where you don't have to fit a mold. Like just be creative and be yourself.
How do you see music with AI now getting involved?
I think it's gross, and I think like it's scary because if AI artists are already chopping the tarts, chopping the top,
Topping the
charting,
yeah, got it.
topping the charts right now,
Yeah,
that's like a scary sign because
it
like
is.
it's not people being creative. It's
Right.
not people putting their heart and soul to it. It's just some thing that you're typing into and be like, create this.
Hmm.
And it's sort of one of those things where it's like that's already taking artists' work away from them. And it's sort of like if that's the thing, and we're gonna become this like stale entertainment
Yeah.
project, I guess. People are just gonna become immune to everything and they don't want to actually be interesting anymore. So I
Right.
think that's a negative part of the music world.
Yeah, I think so too. I see your vinyl collection. What's probably the rarest vinyl you have
Rarest vinyl.
that you can think of? So I was gonna say you don't
Uh
have to keep dig through it, but if there's one that stands out the most.
the Gummo soundtrack,
Oh, that's awesome.
which was a hard one to get.
Yeah, I can see that. Is there any movies or books or artists that help influence you, musically or just artistically?
um m- Movies wise, um Tetsuo the Iron Man was like a big one
Yes.
when I was like 16.
Yes.
There was this
Yeah.
kid in my class. He was kind of a nerd, and
Aren't they
he was
all?
like, but like I like that about
Yeah,
him because he
sure.
was always like in my biology or chemistry classes, and you always had to have like a lab partner, and I'd be like, Cliff, be my partner. I know my friends aren't gonna do the work, and I'm gonna try everything I can to try, and I know you're gonna do really good at it.
Yeah.
So he was just an interesting person. One day at school, he was like, I have these movies. You're into weird movies, right? And you're like, yeah. And he's like, I have these movies you should watch. And one of them was Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Yeah.
The other one was Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was just like a fourth generation bootleg
Mhm.
VHS dub of that movie. And I remember being like, oh my God, I saw that. And it was like the funniest shit ever.
That's awesome.
And like, it like looking back and knowing like Halford now and stuff like that's like even funnier.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know, weird movies like Cruising is like a
Yeah.
big influence to like Plack Blague stuff. And
That's awesome.
I'm into like, Harmony Korine kind of films, which are just weird and absurd. And
Yeah.
like, I kind of like that sort of stuff. So like to me, that's the influence is just like being like different and not fitting the mold.
Of course, I can see that. And I got one last question to ask you, and then I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking with you. Um, where do you see Plack Blague in the next 5 to 10 years, or hope to see?
Um, I just hope to keep going.
Mhm.
Life changes so quickly. I've experienced in the last couple of years just with like family health
Oh yeah.
and just my partner's health and just like things like that where it's like I just hope to keep doing this and I hope just keep making it bigger and bigger. Like I feel like right now I'm in a transitional period where like I need definitely more records, definitely more music and more videos out there. So that's kind of my goal right now, but I need to like kind of like step it up how somehow I can. And that it's just like to keep going and keep just like making this bigger and bigger and just trying to be as interesting as I can
Hey, sure.
without like we live in times where everybody's cool now, everybody's interesting, and it's sort of like how do you top that now? And it's just kind of like just keep going. I think that's all I can really do.
Smart. I like that. Ross, thank you so much for your time. I
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Super fun.
Thanks, man.